the facilities, the investments, the financial gain that a lot of the bigger counties are getting go alongside the population problems. The gap's only going to get bigger, I think, from the bigger and the smaller teams. Welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to run through all the questions that have come through on Instagram. So I put up a question box yesterday and a lot of different questions have been sent through. So going to run through the best ones and yeah, give you the best answer that I can give you. So the first question I got was from a Sideline Live. The best pages that you follow in social media or resources for players. The best resource for players is the 365 Athlete. Fact. No, I'm joking. I'm not joking. I'm taking that as an insult actually. Best resource for players. I'm currently in the process of building the best possible resource for players, which I believe is going to be the 365 Athlete platform, the programs, the community, course pathway. It's going to be unbelievable. So best pages that I follow: PD Performance, PD podcast, fellow podcast guest. He'd be absolutely delighted that I've given him a mention, but his stuff is absolutely brilliant, and I think it probably even goes under the radar at times in terms of how much value he can get, and he's doing a lot of in-person work at the minute as well, and the results probably speak for themselves in terms of what athletes are getting, but his knowledge in terms of movement and stuff is next level. So him, David Gray, and this is something that I actually thought about recently, was there's so many athletes dealing with injuries and pain and whatever else in terms of rehab, and a lot of them that I can see don't even follow people like David on Instagram, and the amount of unbelievable information he puts out on a daily basis, the programs that he sells in terms of the hip program, he's got foot and ankle, he's got upper body, core, like he has so many different things there to help athletes, and if they actually went and did them diligently, again executed them to a high level, to be in a much better place. So follow people like that where you can actually learn more about your body. Like he goes through different videos every day, coaching athletes through so many different things, and there's so much value in there. So yes, it's good for me as a coach, but it's also good for athletes to use. Steve Magnus, he puts out a lot of good stuff in terms of mental performance. Nearly every day he has a really good post out that nearly always resonates with me. So I would definitely check his stuff out. Daniel Davey, massive in terms of the nutrition side of things, really applicable stuff as well, and stuff that you can relate to. Doesn't make it overly complex or scientific. He dumbs it down really well, so you can actually go in action and implement the stuff so easily. And he's also worked with Dublin footballers through their 5 in a row or their 6 in a row, whatever amount of All-Irelands they won, and Leinster Rugby as well, who have been unbelievably successful. Owen McCabe, he's a weapon. I wouldn't follow him. Nah, he puts out good stuff as well. JT Performance, he is one that actually works with like rugby athletes predominantly, but I always take a lot of value from his stuff as well, like loads of really valuable content. Peter Tierney, again, focus a lot on just performance, health, again very scientific but like really, really useful, and the content he puts out is always very useful. When it comes to your nutrition or it comes to your sleep or your health, it's always really useful information. Alan Murdoch, I've mentioned him multiple times. Again, if you're an athlete trying to get faster, move better, more efficient, unbelievable. Brad Stulberg, again similar to Steve Magnus, like a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of simple, actionable stuff that you can go and improve your lifestyle, your health, how you think, how you act, things like that. Yeah, there's loads out there. Like there's so many different pages that you can learn from. How do I deal with being anxious around calories or weight gain despite being lean? It's probably a deeper thing that you probably need to address. Probably something else going on there in terms of a body confidence thing. It's probably going to take more working on probably a deeper level in terms of to get around that, in terms of how you see yourself. And it was something that I went through as well in comparison. Like, and I would have been in my very leanest state, and I still would have looked in the mirror and been like, I'm not lean enough here. You don't need to be absolutely diced, and it's probably a comparison thing coming through social media as well, that there's always going to be someone in better shape than you, and there's always going to be someone who's doing more. But again, it's about focusing on where you are, what you need. Is your body fat levels at a good range? Are you consuming enough calories? And yeah, trying to just focus on that. Like, are you actually fueling for the demands of your sport? And it probably comes down to as well, like how you're actually viewing food. So for me, I view food as fuel and not as like a comfort. Sometimes it is a thing of like, you're not viewing food in that way and viewing it as a way to actually fuel your body for the demands of sport, for your health, for different things like that. I'd probably look about working with someone maybe on a deeper like one-to-one level in terms of that, whether it is with, it could be therapy, like if you want to go that deep into it and actually addressing why you're feeling anxious, or it could be working with a nutritionist as well. How do you manage away games when you stay over the night before. This is a struggle, and it is difficult because, again, there's been studies done as well in terms of like when you sleep away and you sleep in a different room or a different environment, different bed, your quality of sleep is less. So to be honest, I just try and accept it, and I avoid trying to get frustrated over it. Like, I know that it's probably not optimal, but the worst thing I could do is start getting annoyed and frustrated. I nearly go into that expecting not to sleep that well, but know that I'm still prepared and I'm ready to perform regardless of how I sleep. A lot of athletes will be in the same boat as you in terms of if you're staying over a night before a game, sleep quality diminished a wee bit, but just know like you've done enough work and adrenaline and stuff will be there on game day, and you'll be able to get through it. And as long as you've fueled adequately and stuff, you can use caffeine to your advantage, like those things. It shouldn't be an issue. So I will try and just keep as much of the routine the same as I possibly can. So it could be a sleeping mask, could be earplugs for noise when I'm away, could be like bringing my supplements with me to make sure that everything's consistent that way, keeping my sleep times the same, making sure I'm getting up at the same times, things like that. And just trying to keep some form of a routine in as best I can when I'm away. But again, it's not easy, and you just kind of have to accept that it's not going to be the same. Where do you see the GAA as a game, community and organisation in 10 years? That's a great question, and I have thought about it a wee bit in terms of where I see the game going, but personally I just think the gap between the bigger counties and the smaller counties is only going to get bigger, which is kind of worrying for the GAA, to be honest. Like, firstly, you've got a population difference when it comes to bigger and smaller counties. Like, Fermanagh actually has the lowest playing population of the whole of Ireland, and if you compare that with the likes of Cork, like it's genuinely stark in terms of the differences. But we have never tried to use that as an excuse. And again, do I feel that Fermanagh is maximising what they have in terms of population and resource and stuff? Probably not. But then you also have to take into account funds, grants, things like that, and the actual financial situation that a lot of smaller counties are in comparison to bigger counties. Like, if you go into the facilities in terms of the gyms, the pitches, and then you pair that with the fact that the playing population is also massively different, I just think the gap's just going to continue getting wider. And the other side of it is the professional and the semi-professional. Like, is it actually going to go to that eventually down the line? I think that would have a huge impact in terms of the game itself and the sport itself if that actually happened. Because again, like, when you think of why you play GAA, you play it because you're playing for your community, you're playing for your club, you're playing for your county. Like, that's my main reason, and like it gives you that kind of purpose and that passion. And if that was taken away, I think it would just decrease the want, especially in smaller counties, for players to actually go and play the game. So it's hard to see where it'll be in 10 years, but I just can't see a bigger gap being created. How to get around hip, groin and lower abdomen pain. Where do you start? I did go through all of this in my previous YouTubes in terms of the journey I went through, and the video you probably need to go and watch is probably the 20 lessons that I give in this, because there's so many different things that I learned throughout that process with hip and groin pain, but even any real chronic pain that could help. And the main thing is who you have in your corner and who you're actually working with, because I would always go, when it comes to chronic hip and groin, I would always go to the specialist and invest in that early and put your full trust in it and put your full commitment to it and be curious and ensure that all those different boxes are being ticked in terms of your movement efficiency, in terms of your strength, in terms of your load management, in terms of having someone in your corner and that accountability and that support and someone to have conversations with. And again, as I mentioned, go and watch that video and you'll see different things that I talk about in that should potentially help. Next question from James. The club pissed away the whole pre-season. 6 weeks to championship. Any tips to prepare? Join the 365 athlete. Depends where you're at. Like, when you're behind, it's not a case of going way more than everyone else. It just means for this 6 weeks, you're going to have to put a bit of a pre-season focus. So throughout your week, you're going to have your conditioning factored in, at least 2 sessions in the week where you're getting extra meters in the legs, high-speed run in the legs. You're factoring in your speed pre-training and your prep with purpose work before that. You're getting weekly speed exposures in. In training, you're bringing a focus to tactical work, extra bits off training, like before trainings on your skill work, maybe an extra day as well that you're allocating towards developing your skill level, and just trying to improve each week for those 6 weeks until you get the championship. Like, you still have 6 weeks, so it's not really the end of the world. You can get a lot done in 6 weeks when it comes to your conditioning and your speed and your movement quality and your technical work. So I would just try and now, I would focus on trying to get a structure in place and a plan in place that allows you to keep progressing those over that period of time. And if that is working with a coach, then that's what it'll take, because it is quite difficult to figure that out yourself. And then trying to just put extra wee bits in around that to keep leveling up. So for your conditioning, it could be adding in an extra zone 2 off-feed conditioning session to just keep building that aerobic base. It could be working with a nutritionist or a coach, again, as I mentioned. It could be working with, if it's mindset that is your limiting factor, like different things like that, and then your skill level. And just yeah, don't try and overdo it or force things in that 6 weeks and think that you need to go from 0 to 100, because that will just end up with you being probably injured and unavailable for selection, which is the most important thing. Like, you want to be still available for selection in 6 weeks. So how do I overcome game anxiety? Things are coming off well in training, but they're not coming off in a game. So firstly, it's good that things are coming off in training. To be honest, the first thing is more games will help, and actually learning from those games. So reviewing after a game what actually went well, what didn't go well, and why it didn't go well. Like, was it your decision making? Were you panicking under pressure? It could be just you need more games and more time in that environment to keep improving, as well as like identifying what actually didn't go well in the game. Was it decision making, skill execution, and then trying to bring that into your training session. So setting goals for your training sessions that you can apply then and will help you to improve in the game. The only way we're going to improve in terms of decision making is giving yourself that leeway that things will go wrong in training, like, and accepting that things go wrong for the best players in Ireland week on week in games. So that's a completely normal thing. As long as you learn from them and you have that growth mindset of going into sessions just wanting to improve and be better, then you will improve and you will get better. One thing I like to do is if in a game I make a mistake or if something doesn't go well, it's like a mantra of right, next ball, and it's like a switch. You like flick a switch in your mind that you're just going to the next moment. You're just trying to win every moment in every training or in every game, and accept that it's not going to go well every single time, and that's completely normal. And put yourself in environments where you're challenging those things as well. If you're not getting enough skill work in training, then you're probably not going to improve it to a level that's going to carry over in the games. You're going to have to go and do stuff on your own outside of that to improve skills or improve decision making. If it means going to the pitch on your own with a friend or a teammate or whatever and working those kind of scenarios, it could be watching your games back and looking through footage and seeing what's going well and what's not going well. And you build confidence and stuff like that through reps and through evidence of being able to do the thing. So you're going to have to just put yourself in that environment more often and accept if things don't go wrong, it's okay, it's fine. I just go to the next ball and I learn from that previous one and go again. Dealing with niggles in season and not wanting to miss training or matches. You have to kind of weigh up, is the niggles holding you back from being able to perform, or are they something you can continue to work on while still training? So firstly is having actual rehab there that is going to improve the situation in terms of improving your weak areas, your strength, your movement quality, different things like that alongside training so that you don't have to miss sessions. Or sometimes by continuing to train with niggles and things that are going on, it's just taken away from your performance in the pitch, so you have to just take yourself out of certain sessions and have that kind of conversation with the management or with the coaches that, listen, I want to be fresh, I want to be ready to perform in game day, so by constantly training when I've got this niggle, if it's a tendinopathy or whatever, it's actually impacting my ability to perform in the pitch. So maybe taking yourself back out of one of the sessions a week, working in your rehab, getting that nailed, so then you're going into the game fresher and be able to perform better and feel better. That can sometimes be the best option, but the key thing I would say is, are you doing rehab to actually get that niggle better in season? You should have a rehab plan that specifically targets those areas, and you can work on 2 to 3 times a week away from team training, so that over a period of weeks that niggle is consistently getting less of a problem, I suppose. And then if it's not improving, you're either doing the wrong rehab and you need a better rehab plan, or the training load that you're doing is too high and you need to take that down a bit to actually get better quality rehab in and adapt from that rehab over time. So it's one of those two, and you're just going to have to, I suppose, make a decision over that. Any tips on confidence and backing yourself on game day? So it's a cliche nearly at this stage in terms of confidence, but confidence comes from evidence that you can do the thing. Building up more evidence in games that you're capable of doing certain things is key, and actually going back and thinking about those scenarios that you did well or you had success in games and you had big performances. That's something that a lot of professionals would use, is they go back and they watch footage of games where they played well, and you're reinforcing that belief that you can have good performances, you can play well, you can kick scores, or you can defend and things like that. And journaling those kind of things, what you want to focus on in games, writing down what your key attributes in games are, like identifying what it is you bring to a game. So one thing I would do before games is write down my strengths and what I actually bring to the game, what I want to bring to the game. It could be communication, organising kickouts as a forward. It could be being vocal on the pitch. It could be taking my man on when I get myself in a 1v1 situation. And then I suppose your confidence as well comes from the work that you're doing outside of the training. So if you're doing very little work outside of training and games to get yourself fitter and faster and stronger and improve your skill execution and things like that, that's going to have a direct impact on your confidence on the pitch. So if you're doing none of that, it's no wonder you're going into games with that lack of confidence, because you don't have that evidence of having done the work that other players who you're maybe playing against do. So continually working on that and improving that is going to be key for confidence. Reinforcing that thought in your mind that you do back yourself. So the more you tell yourself the story that you don't have confidence or you don't back yourself, the more that you're going to believe it, and that's going to seep into how you play and how you think on the pitch. So keep reinforcing that you do back yourself. You are someone who plays with confidence. You are someone who's doing the work. The more you believe that, the more you think that, the more you write that down, the more that's going to seep into how you act and perform, I suppose, on the pitch. Often when I carb load, I can feel very sluggish. Could it be that I'm overdoing it? Again, this is something that I went over in the nutrition video, so that should be up on the page as well. Go and watch that. But typically when it comes to carb loading, athletes will just eat whatever they want to eat. They will not put a focus on the specific foods that they're eating. So for me, I try and bring fibre down. So in terms of like fibrous foods, it could be like leafy greens, fruits or potatoes, it could be like beans and things like that. I would try and reduce that, and I would also try and reduce my fat. So I wouldn't be eating things like butter, oily foods, fried foods, full fat red meat, full fat yogurts, things like that I would be reducing. Take up less space in the gut, and digestion would be a lot smoother if you're focusing on easy to digest carbs that are lower in fibre, like white rice, cereals, white breads, things like that are going to be easier for your gut to digest. And then I would track your calories as well and make sure that you're not going way overboard. So that's going to give you that confidence knowing that you haven't went overboard as well. And then there's certain foods that just will react differently with different people, so you kind of probably need to keep a note of what you're eating and how you actually feel after those foods. But the key thing is just not eating whatever you want, because that's when you're going to eat too much fat, you're going to eat too much calories, and you're going to feel sluggish in the pitch. So lean meats, easy to digest carbs that are lower in fibre, and then keeping your fats low, and you should be 100%. What is some lifestyle advice about better habits, routines? First thing that came to my head there was, in terms of habits, would be reading the book Atomic Habits. Like, that was where I really started to get a better knowledge in terms of how you actually develop better habits. There's so many different takeaways and stuff in that, so that would be your first port of call when it comes to improving that. In terms of lifestyle, when it comes to lifestyle, you're thinking about like, what's your sleep like, what's your environment like, what's your conversations like, relationships, your food quality, your nutrition, stress levels, trying to keep them low on a daily basis, including things outside of sport that you actually enjoy doing, that you find fun as well, and factoring them into your week, factoring in going for a meal or a coffee with friends. Like, those are the kind of things that keep stress levels low, and so that you're not hyper fixated on high performance all the time, or having to eat specific perfect foods all the time, or everything being geared towards game day and as well. So yeah, read Atomic Habits, and then put a focus on not just physical things but also like emotional and like stress levels as well. Adductor tendon tear, almost on the pitch after 3 months. Best exercises to keep healthy. For something like an adductor tendon tear, I would not be best suited to probably answer that. So again, I'd go and look for specialists in those areas that I have mentioned in previous videos, and make sure you have a proper plan in place that factors in things that you need to keep on top of that. When trying to put on muscle but lose body fat that's not needed, what is the best way? The best way when you're carrying body fat is always to lose that body fat first. Majority of the time you're better going into a phase of a calorie deficit and trying to lose the body fat over a period of time and get yourself lean first, while still focus on building your strength up in the gym, keeping your protein high and things like that. And then once you get the level that you're actually lean, then you go into the muscle building phase. You increase your calories into a small surplus, you still focus on your gym and trying to build strength across all your lifts, and have a phase structured program and plan from someone who knows what they're talking about. And you break it down into those different phases, I suppose, where you focus on one first and then the next first. Because once you try and do both at the same time, you're stuck in that messy middle where one week you want to increase your calories and the next you're thinking, fuck, I have too much body fat here, I need to pull back, and then you just end up achieving nothing. So focus on one first, nail it, get yourself lean, and then go from there. Why aren't you kicking a ball over your house? Because I'd be still there on day 47 trying to kick it over into my bin. Nah, that's actually a good trend going on. I actually really enjoy watching it, but I don't have the facilities for that, mate. My back garden's tiny, and if I kick the ball over the house, it would just end up gone forever. How much high-speed running do you cover on hard training weeks, roughly? So this kind of depends where your metric is set for high-speed running. So if it's set at like, ours is set at 5.5 meters per second, I think, at the minute. So on like a hard training week, I'd say it would be anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000, depending. Like on a game week, you'd be between 1,000 and 2,000 in a game. And then like, if it's game week on week in training, it should be down below like 700 in each session max. Yeah, around 3,000, 3,500 in pre-season, when we're trying to upload and build a base level of fitness and get some meters in the legs and build some robustness and kind of capacity to that load. Some weeks it could have been up close to 4,000, I would say. But yeah, they're kind of rough estimates, and in season it probably would come down a wee bit, just because you're trying to bring the load back down between games and make sure that you're fresh going into them. But it's hard to give guidelines on that. But you would be pushing up towards 3,000 to 4,000, I suppose. But again, you need to have built up that load in pre-season to get towards that. Like if you go from doing 500 to 1,000 in a week straight to 3,000, 4,000, you're going to run into problems in terms of injuries. So mentally, how did you deal with injuries over the last year. I'm not going to go into the detail again about that, but go and watch the video that put up 20 lessons from chronic groin pain, and then also my journey from chronic pain back to performance, because I talk about all of that within that and how I dealt with it. How do you keep fit in Chicago for the summer? That was challenging, because when you go out to Chicago, you're surrounded by people who just want to go out there and enjoy it, which is fine, and it can be difficult. You're still training, I suppose, Tuesday, Thursday and playing at the weekends, but you're not really training that hard. I suppose when I came closer towards the end of my time in Chicago, I started doing more runs at the end of training to kind of top that up and still have a base level of fitness for coming home. So I would try and consistently do that week on week, just after training if you haven't got enough in. The key thing when it comes to staying fit is what you do with your nutrition and how much alcohol you drink when you're over there. So I would try and limit to an extent if you do want to come home in really good condition for club championship. But the nutrition side of things is probably huge, and actually I did a food shop like most weeks and had the food stocked with like protein yogurts, Greek yogurt, frozen fruits, eggs, bread, like avocado, things like that, so that I just had that in the house, so that like 2 of my meals a day I was covered with good quality food, and then I could eat out after that, and I wasn't going way overboard in calories and my body fat levels weren't going up. So that would probably be the main thing. Like if you're constantly eating out every day and you're drinking 2 or 3 times a week, like you're gonna come home and shite shape, like that's just a fact. So those are the things that I would try and keep a handle on when you are there, and then topping up with additional conditioning runs, and then having a gym membership, which like I think me and maybe 1 or 2 others in the whole team had a gym membership when we were out there. So having that to keep me accountable and actually go and do 2 or 3 gym sessions a week with someone will definitely help. Extra mana player that you would want to bring back in their prime? Good question. That's a great question. Few probably spring to mind. The Quigleys is obviously the main one, probably. If we could have Shamey or Sean Quigley in their absolute prime in our current team, it'd be a serious lift for the 2-pointers especially. So yeah, probably one of them, to be honest, I would bring back in their prime. It'd be an absolute weapon in the new rules. So if you're watching, Sean, get your finger out, get back for next year. Best way of managing nutrition intake while on a J1 from your own experience in the USA? I just answered that, didn't I? You could also source out like different places to eat when you're away in a J1. Like there actually is decent options. I would have lived out of Chipotle when I was in Chicago. It was unreal, and you can eat relatively clean when you're there. But there's also good healthy food places as well if you source them out that you can like consistently go to. So that you're not always eating shite. And then you've got that like other meals where it's like, the oats is the other thing that I had when I was there. So oats, yogurt, frozen fruit, eggs, bread, like, and then you have like 2 meals a day sorted. I find carb loading makes me sluggish. I feel better eating high protein game today. Any tips? So the reason you probably feel better is probably because you've reduced the heavy foods that you've been eating, not so much that the protein is making you feel good. So again, I would just switch up the actual sources of food that you're eating when it comes to carbs. Like, are you eating easily digestible carbs like rice and cereal and white bread, or are you eating heavier, like slower digesting, like potatoes with the skin on, or fried foods and things like that, which don't make you feel good? Should I be taking creatine? Yes. Is Whoop worth it? This is something I've talked about as well. So it's worth it if you understand like the data that it's actually giving you in terms of like the HRV readings and resting heart rate, and there's also loads of other, the Whoop 5.0 has come out over the last few weeks, and they can like measure like blood pressure and stuff now as well. Like there's so many different advancements to it, so it's always leveling up, which I like. The other thing would not be getting emotionally attached. So sometimes when you get something like a Whoop, you can attach your whole, I suppose, how you feel on a day-to-day basis based off what the Whoop is giving you back. And like if you're waking up and you're in the red or in the orange and you're starting to think, fuck, I can't train today, the most important thing to consider when it comes to like what training you're going to do on a day basis is like how you actually feel, and actually just structuring a week in a smart way. But yeah, I would say it is, especially in the short term, it nearly forces you to put in better habits when it comes to your sleep or your nutrition, especially when you see if the data is giving you back readings that you're not recovering well. It forces you to go and actually put in habits and routines and improve your nutrition and structure your week better to actually improve them things. But as I mentioned, just ensure that you're not letting it dictate your whole mood on a daily basis, because then it can start to have a negative impact on your performance, and you don't want that. So learn more about the data it's giving you when it comes to HRV and resting heart rate and all those different metrics that it gives you in your sleep and stuff. And then you can actually make informed decisions with the data then in terms of your training. I'll probably do a more in-depth video on that as well at some stage, but yeah, it should be worth it if you're using it the right way. I think that's all the questions. I went through majority of them there. Thanks for sending them in. I hope you took some kind of value from them. And again, like, subscribe, comment, send me a question, send me your thoughts, whatever it is. Yeah, I will see you in the next one. Good luck.